Good morning and welcome to another pre-market review session with the Market Trader. My name's Ray, the Market Trader. And before we get started, we'll need to go through our obligatory risk disclosure. So we'll go ahead and do just that. So just to remind everyone that the content that's being distributed and published by the Market Trader is to be used as general information only. None of the information provided by the company or contained herein is intended as investment advice and offer to buy, sell, recommend, endorse, sponsor any security, company, or fund. We all understand that the use of this information is to be used at your own risk, and the company, its partners, representatives, agents, employees, contractors assume no responsibility or liability for any use or misuse of such information. Future trading does carry a fair amount of risk. Investor could lose all or more of their investment capital. Only risk capital money that can be lost without jeopardizing one's financial security or lifestyle should be used for trading, and only those individuals with sufficient risk capitals should consider trading. Again, nothing contained herein is a solicitation or an offer to buy, sell futures, options, or forex, and past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Okay, so now that I've gotten through the risk disclosure, we'll go ahead and turn our attention over to, hey Dirk, to the news portal, okay, and see what kind of news that we have in store today that could impact us today in the markets, okay? So let's see here. All right. Hopefully the news portal, if I can get maybe some confirmation that you are indeed able to see the my financial juice news portal, that would be helpful. Okay, perfect. Perfect. All right. So what do we have in the way of news today? Well, today being January 7th. Okay, so it looks like we got a report out already on the employment changes. ADP employment change came in under than expected by 9,000. Okay, we have U.S. JOLTS job openings coming in at 7, including factory orders month over month, including ISM services, PMI, all coming in at 10 a.m. today. Okay. And then we have later this morning and into the afternoon, we have some White House press briefings, including some Trump signing some executive orders. Okay. So good amount of news, I would say, to start the day that has the impact to impact the markets here. So obviously being aware of this 10 a.m. Maybe remaining flat into that report, and maybe waiting anywhere between 15 or 30 minutes after this report would probably be a wise move. Okay, certainly would not hold a position into this without caution. Okay. All right. So we've gone through the risk disclosure and the news. Now we're going to go ahead and turn our attention to the charts. Okay. So we'll go ahead and do that. And let's see if I can bring up my charting platform here. All right. Turn this off here. And we'll start. Okay, so we'll pause here for a moment and to make sure that everybody can visibly see my charts here. I do have a chart of the gold market up on my up on my charts. I'll turn off this indicator here over to the right, but okay, so we'll turn this off, this higher time frame. Okay. All right. So I don't know. So starting off with the gold here, we're going to go ahead and open up the daily and kind of take a peek here as to what kind of market context we can gather here. Okay. So you can see over, say, the last maybe tail end of last year into this year, looks like the market has dropped into some sort of consolidation. We had a pretty, strong bearish candle here near the close of the year. And we really haven't been able to make a lot of headway in either direction. Okay. We did manage to start the year with a couple of days here of some bullish price action. But now into today, we are developing a little bit in the way of a bearish engulfing candle. Okay. Kind of giving me the indication that the market appears to be getting in the beginning stages of some sort of consolidation, right? So again, the goal of the market is to remain in balance, right? We go from out of balance to balance. And right now, it appears that we are in some sort of balance range in this market. Okay. So the idea here now is, we could participate in certain moves here, right? Maybe to the bottom of this triangle pattern that I've drawn here. Okay. That would kind of be a reasonable move. And then maybe the bottom end of this channel or this trend line could offer us maybe a location for price to reverse back up to the upper trend line of this triangle pattern, and we could remain in this kind of pattern until participants decide to move. Now, what I do know is, again, I don't know the direction, although we've been relatively relatively bullish up until now. I don't know necessarily the direction of the move, but I do know the magnitude of the move. So from 46.15 down to 42.47, okay, 42 to this move right here. I mean, we're looking at a pretty significant potential significant move here, okay, based on the daily chart. So again, daily chart kind of giving me an indication here that we're moving in some sort of range. I'm going to go ahead and just measure this just to kind of get a sense of the magnitude of the move that I'm thinking that what might take place here. Okay. A move that could take us back to 4,800 is not out of the question. All right. Now, whether that happens today is unlikely, but that's kind of the, based on this, the mouth of this triangle pattern, that's kind of what we're looking at. 4,800 to the upside and possibly 4,100 to the downside. That's the direction. So or that's the magnitude of the move that I am expecting to see here over the next few weeks. Okay. Taking a look at the 4-hour chart. Looking at the 4-hour chart, you can see a lot more candles here, kind of defining this range that I've kind of already defined here on the daily chart. You can see here that we're maybe developing a little bit of a supply area, right? We did make an attempt here to get to a new high. That was met with a relatively strong bearish candle, and we have not been able to close inside that area since. Okay, so the question now becomes: is this lower area, this area around 44? Let's call it 44.85. Okay. Is this area going to serve as a location for a continuation move to the downside, to the other side of this trend line that I created with the triangle pattern? Okay. Is that what's been created here? Because if we are indeed going to exceed this area, we obviously need to get through this area, and this area over the last 1, 2, 3, 4-hour candles has shown to be an area where we continue to find sellers. Okay. So 4-hour chart, again, showing us, kind of the same range that we were describing in the daily. Taking a look at the 30-minute chart. Okay. So there's that area that I was talking about. And there's an opportunity that during Asia that offered us a nice little extension here, but we're not here to talk about trade review, but it did offer us a location off of that level back to the lows here. In any case, a lot of shorts in the market overnight. Okay. If I compare the price with yesterday's price action, Okay. You can see that price is below value, right? Below value from yesterday's range, indicating that folks are willing to pay a premium to be a part of this market to the downside. Okay. Right. This is our value low. Now, again, I always find it interesting that these levels, okay, let's go ahead and maybe move this up here a little bit, but you can see how this value area low offered us a logical location to participate in a continuation trade to the downside in much the same way that we looked to initial balance, right? So these value zones, these range zones, these consolidation areas, the edges of these areas, once they're broken, offer us logical locations to participate in a continuation trade in this case. Okay, nice opportunity here. Again, in the middle of the night here, but a nice location nonetheless. Okay, so again, a lot of bears in this market at the moment. Taking a look at the initial balance range. Looking at the initial balance range across the various sessions, we're going to go ahead and start off with the Asia. Okay, so you can see here we got a nice extension of the initial balance to the downside. We got a retracement back close to the the initial balance low. Okay, that was created by Asia, and we continued lower. So again, fair amount of sellers in Asia. An opportunity, not so much an opportunity because they didn't really quite get back to the area, but this could also serve as a location as we head into the New York session. This area here at 4468.9 could offer us a location, again, much like we got in Asia, for a continuation move to the downside in this market. Right? We can use prior initial balance areas to serve as reference levels to support continuation trades. You lost the view. Okay, let's see if I can restore that. Okay, how about now? Okay, good. Okay. All right. So, all right, excellent. So like I was saying, a lot of bearish kind of price action we've been seeing in the overnight between Tokyo and Asia. Now, what is New York going to bring? Is it going to bring us continuation to the downside, or is this potentially? As I'm looking at this, I feel like maybe that we're developing a little bit in the way. Remove my drawings here. I don't know if others are seeing the same thing I am, but could this be some sort of crude? What kind of pattern is this? Rather than answer it, let me pose it to the audience. Is what do you think? What do you think I'm seeing? I'll just kind of point out to, yeah, a little bit of a head and shoulder pattern, right? So this head and shoulder pattern, right? I'm looking at this as possibly the neckline, right? This being the neckline, and this being from the head down to the neckline. Again, the feeling is that maybe there is maybe some additional opportunity that could take us back down to 44.10. Okay, right? That's kind of what I'm seeing at the moment, right? What I do know is that there are a fair amount of bears. Yeah, lower highs and lower lows. And the fact that the magnitude of this, if I take a measure of the head down to the neckline, I can forecast maybe a measured move, right, down to these lows here, and that's perfectly aligned with buyers that we see here on the left. I guess I'm always amazed. I'm always amazed at how these patterns land at locations where we would that can serve as reasonable targets. Okay. All right. So fair amount of sellers in this market. I would say that given what we're seeing in the session, that there is, if we cannot hold where we're at right now in the US session, certainly I think there's a fair amount of bearish sentiment as we head into the session. Okay. So just kind of looking here and seeing if there are any questions, and I'm not seeing them. So we'll go ahead now and move into morning. We'll go ahead and move into the silver market. Silver. Okay. Silver has been added as a regular instrument that we review in this session. We'll start off with the daily chart. We'll remove some of our drawings here and get kind of a little bit of a fresh look at this market. Now, what do I see? Similar to what we were seeing in the gold market, right? We see a market that has been up until recently rather bullish. Okay. Now the question is, are we coming up? And again, I'm looking at this as more kind of an ascending kind of wedge pattern. Okay. And the question now becomes, do we continue in this path to the upside? Because what we're seeing right now is a little bit of loss in momentum, a little bit of loss of momentum to the upside based on the daily chart. And again, similar to what we were seeing in the gold market, it appears that we are consolidating in a bit. Okay. So that could present some challenges in finding the proper direction to be taking trades in this market. Okay. So let's go ahead and move into the 4-hour chart and see what the 4-hour chart has to say. We're going to go ahead and turn off our initial balance range here for a moment and take a look and see what's developing here. So you can see that upper trend line around this 81 level that's been tested not just once, second time. And each time it's come to this level, it's been rejected, creating a little bit in the way of a double top here, right? So now the question becomes, are we going to hold? I'm going to kind of adjust this here a little bit. Are we going to hold this little trend line that I've created here on the daily chart? Okay. Is this a lower end of this line going to hold? And you can see here, as I look to the left, this would be a logical location to find some buyers. Now, we still appear to have a little bit of a gap here down around the 72 level. So there's a strong possibility that we can revisit and close this gap before we see any sort of return to set any sort of bullish price action in the silver market. We have a series of 4-hour candles. Again, similarly that we did in the gold, we've also created a little bit of a resistance zone right around the, I don't know, a high 70, maybe mid 79 level. Okay. A little bit of a resistance zone there. So this is indicating, maybe some downside pressure in this market, right? We're starting to create some structure that would indicate that maybe, excuse me, that would indicate that we are maybe headed lower. Okay. So prices closed below some price structure here. We are developing a candle below, and we're starting to get into a series of lower lows and lower highs. Okay. So 4-hour, while in range, is looking a bit bearish. 30-minute chart. 30-minute chart, you can see that we are below our VWAP. We are below our 9 EMA. If we open up our fixed range volume profile from yesterday, start from see over here, cross to here. Okay. You can see that price is below our value range here. Okay. So there we have it. And look again how this, similar to what we saw in the gold market, look how once we broke this range, once we broke this value range to the downside, look how nicely price came back to that level and offered us a logical reference level for a continuation move to the downside. Unfortunately for me, this is happening at an hour where I'm resting, and many of you probably are resting as well. Okay. But again, these areas offer us nice locations to support a continuation trades. Okay. All right. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at these initial balance ranges across the various markets, because it does appear that we have a fair amount of bears in this market at this moment. Looking at Asia, you can see how we received a very nice extension to the downside. We did not really make a move here. It gave us a pullback, right? Probably not as deep of a pullback that maybe we would like to see, but it did give us a pullback to some known areas, our 9 EMA and our VWAP, and it offered us a nice location for a continuation move to the downside. Now, this happened in during the Asia session. I was more focused on gold, but we got a similar move in silver. All right, and we've been down ever since. Okay, so fair amount of sellers here in Asia. Looking at London. Okay, London also offering us a nice downside move in this market. We had to sit through a fair amount of candles here, but price never made it back inside this initial balance range. Instead, we continued our trek to the downside. So looking at the silver market, we're going to go ahead and open up the current session here. Right. So I would say that the market is looking a bit on the bearish side overall. Okay. The question now becomes, what would be some locations where I could look maybe to participate in this move to the downside? Well, we had the initial balance range from Asia earlier up here at this location. You can see that this 79,405 level has served as an area here of potential price, and that was kind of a location that we used. I think was initial balance low for London. Okay, so headed into the session, I would say that it appears that we need to be looking for opportunities to the bear side. Okay, now we were highlighting earlier, and I'll highlight again. Just going to remove some of our drawings here. You can see we had a similar kind of pattern, maybe not the prettiest head and shoulder pattern here, but you can see that we have a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. And again, if I draw top to bottom, head to neckline, okay, and forecast from neckline to low, right? Well, we've already exceeded, right? We got a little bit of reaction from that level to the upside. Okay, so the head and shoulder pattern offered us an indication and in this case direction of the and target for this bearish move. Okay, so headed into the session, as amazing as this may sound, I'm looking at the market to be maybe somewhat of a bearish to neutral. Okay, I am expecting to some degree that this area right here we're already below it. So the next logical level for me to look for any sort of reversal trade, if I'm going to be looking for a reversal trade, it would have to be down at this 76 level, right? That's the earliest that I would be maybe looking to entertain anything in the way of a bullish trade, because there's a fair amount of bearish price action, fair amount of bearish price structure that's going on and taking place here in the silver market. Okay, so neutral to bearish, similar view that I had in gold applies to silver as well. Moving on to the crude oil market. So crude oil market, I was kind of thinking that we were getting into a situation, maybe we were getting into some sort of bullish market here in the crude, given all the uncertainty around crude oil. That, on the other hand, has caused the market to sell off again here. Okay, so we'll take a look at the daily, see what the daily is doing here. As the moment I start to think that maybe we're starting to develop some structure here to the upside, sellers step back into this market and kind of let me know that sellers are still very much in control of this market. Okay. Taking a look at the daily, you can see that we've come in again into an area where we could get some demand here around 56 level and certainly around 55. I think 55 is certainly an important level for the bulls to continue to maintain if they have any aspirations of moving prices higher. I would say that 55 is definitely a daily level that I think you need to continue to watch to see maybe if it produces maybe something in the way of a double bottom that could offer us maybe an opportunity to take the market to the bullish side. If we break 55, then I would say watch out below. I don't know exactly where this could take us, but it could take us pretty low. Okay. 55 is a relatively important level for this crude oil market to maintain. Okay. So again, as I was starting to think that maybe the market was headed into maybe a bullish direction, I'm again, kind of reminded that sellers are still very much present in this market. So again, daily chart, again, still telling us that we're in range with market sentiments remaining bearish. Okay. Taking a look at the 4-hour chart. 4-hour chart, we're going to go ahead and turn off our initial balance range here for a moment. Taking a look at the 4-hour chart, you can see that we have a fair amount of sellers here up until recently, right? A good amount of sellers in the tail end of London into New York, and then now into New York, and I mean beginning in New York, or say tail end of London into New York. We're starting to see a little bit in the way of some bullish price action. Okay, nothing too significant for me to say that we need to kind of switch our sentiment here. I think our sentiment remains quite bearish. Okay. Taking a look at the 30-minute chart. Okay. Looking at the 30-minute chart, this is kind of my recent kind of indications here that maybe, again, we're trying to make some grounds here on the bullish side, but I could see that we are still very much inside a bearish swing. So until I can break above, say, 59, right, I really need to kind of focus my attention on locating bearish opportunities in this market. And how do I locate bearish opportunities? Well, one of the things I can do here is I can open up the fixed range volume profile and open up yesterday's session here. Okay, drag that across to the close and locate areas where I would be willing to maybe participate to the downside. Okay, this would be a logical location for that, right? I can risk price closing back inside the range for an opportunity for price to extend the range. Now, if price closes back inside this area, then the expectation is that there's a possibility that we can grind our way back to value area high. Okay, because we are starting to see some evidence, right? We got price above the 9, above the VWAP, and now we're hovering around value area low from yesterday. Okay, so again, this could be an area where we could see price continue lower, right? Make that kind of measured move. If we take this measure, what do I mean by this measure move? Well, what if I were to measure this move, okay, and assume that this is my high? Well, there's a possibility that this could take the market all the way down to 53.85 based on the move that we received here. That would be considered a measured move. Okay, I can use my Fibonacci tool to do the same, but this is a very simple way to get an idea of what if they are indeed strong, then this would be merely a retracement for a move that would continue all the way down to potentially 54. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at the initial balance ranges across the various sessions. Taking a look at Asia. Asia was pretty much neutral, as it normally is for crude oil. Okay. London, usually a little bit more active. London managed to get price above the initial balance range. Again, giving us an indication that maybe there is some, maybe this is a repair day. Maybe this is a little bit of a repair day for crude oil, given all the selling that took place overnight. But if that's to take place, we need to get above 57, right? If we can get above 67, I can use value area low as a level to support maybe a continuation trade that rotates all the way back to 58 and change. Okay. Otherwise, we'll hang out below this and maybe offer us an opportunity to either stay in this range or offer a continuation trade to the downside. Okay. All right. So we'll have to rewatch. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes. We'll summarize kind of our stance on across these markets, but yes. So we're kind of winding down on our crude oil view. I would say that again, as long as price remains below 57, that we need to continue to look for opportunities to the downside. If we cross above it, and get inside this area with some volume, then there's a possibility that we can maybe reach the point of control here around 58. Okay, in this market. All right, so kind of in an area that where a decision needs to be made on this market. But I would say that right now, I would say that you need to err on the side of bearish until assuming that we could stay below 57. Okay. Otherwise, that maybe you could look for maybe an opportunity that would take you back to the point of control up here at around the 58 level. I'm going to go ahead and draw a line across that level here, right about there. Okay, around the 58 level is possibility from 57 or 56 and change, 56.92 and change, all the way back up to 58 before we start to see maybe sellers kind of stepping back into this market. Okay, so that's kind of what I have for you for the crude oil market. Before, let's see, looks like our like indicator is in line with our attendance. Actually, we're above, which is kind of nice for a change. So it looks like we're pretty good on the like indicator. So I'm going to go ahead and if you're not a current subscriber, I encourage you to become one. If you have not made a comment in the recent past on the analysis I've been doing on these markets, I would encourage you to do so. Otherwise, let's go ahead and take a look at the equity markets. Looking at the equity markets, we're going to go ahead and start with our equity market of choice, or not necessarily of choice, but certainly a market that everyone is interested in understanding, and that is the NASDAQ. All right, so there's that little triangle pattern that we drew earlier. Now we are retesting the upper end of this trend line here, right? So the question now becomes, is this going to offer us maybe a pullback, right? Or kind of a continuation of this pattern, right? We are coiling, right? We're coiling for a move, right? So if we are at the upper end of the trend line, if we are in some sort of consolidation range, then the expectation is that maybe we rotate back to the right. We've done this before. This is not the first time we've done that. We could rotate back to say 25,430, right? And that would be a logical move for this market. We are developing a bearish candle up against an area where we would expect sellers to be. Okay. Let's take a look now at the 4-hour chart. 4-hour chart, we'll go ahead and turn off our initial balance ranges. Okay, looking at our initial balance ranges, you can see price made a pretty strong move here in early January, okay, just after the new year. And for now, that really just, I guess, maybe fleshed out some weak buyers. And what did they do with this market? Well, they've been buying it ever since, up until we've reached this area here. And now we're starting to see some sellers. Now we're a little bit mixed because we see that price is below our VWAP and above our 9 EMA. Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Michael. We're above our EMAs and below our VWAPs. Okay. So it's a little bit mixed. I'm going to kind of err on the side of the fact that we are in range, and maybe my expectation is that we follow the path of this purple line, right, that I have here down to the opposite end of this triangle pattern. Okay. All right. So that's kind of what I'm seeing right now, right? A market that is in some sort of range. Taking a look at the 30-minute chart. Okay, 30-minute chart is developing a little bit in the way of a bearish candle here, not a little, but it's developing to be quite a relatively strong bearish candle up against our VWAP. Now our VWAP is sloping to the downside. Okay, so that's indicating to us there are some bears. There is a little bit of bearish sentiment in this market, but we also are countering that with an EMA that's looking a little bit bullish. Okay, so the question now becomes, which one is it going to be? Well, that's telling me that I need to be patient and wait for some of these indicators to align themselves consistently. What do I mean by that? Well, if I see price closing below my VWAP and sloping to the downside, well, I would like to see price close below my 9 EMA, consistent with the VWAP, and also sloping in that direction to give me maybe a little bit more confidence that maybe there is more in the way of a downside move in this market, right? I do see that we have a little bit of a support zone here, right around this 25,735. We got a little bit of reaction, but we did not go too far before we saw, price reverse and maybe a little bit more aligned with the general sentiment that we're seeing here. All right. Let's take a look now at the fixed range volume profile. Let's compare price action, or let's compare prices here with where we're at right now. And where are we at right now? Well, we are in range. We are in range from yesterday. So what is that telling us? It's telling me, and hopefully it's telling you, that we need to be a little bit patient with this market. Okay. If we wanted, so the fact that we are in range from yesterday is indicating that there is some level of acceptance of price, right? That we have an equal number of buyers and sellers in this market, which doesn't really translate to directional moves. Now, could I see, or could we see price head back down to value area low? Absolutely, but that would be consistent with the range. So what this tells me is that I need to respect these ranges, right? I need to be potentially a seller up here at 25,839 and maybe look to be a buyer right around 25,691, right? Otherwise, I need some evidence from the market to tell me who's more aggressive. Because if I look at my volume, right, we're starting to see maybe a little bit of volume coming in on the sell side. If I look at my DMI is confused, right? We have overlapping positive and negative on a ADX line that is sloping to the downside, okay, indicating there is not a whole lot of aggressive buying or selling going on in the NASDAQ market. So I have to remain somewhat patient in this market, all right? Wait for maybe a better opportunity, maybe sometime later in the session. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take a look now at the initial balance ranges across the various sessions and see if we can glean anything in the way of direction based on that. Okay, so looking at Asia, well, Asia is certainly not aligned with the general direction of this market. Asia feels that we should be focused on the bear side. London is thinking a little bit opposite of that. We did have a little bit of a failed auction to the downside. We've rotated back to the other side of the initial balance range, But what's interesting is we did not break above the initial balance range in London. So that is showing a little bit of alignment, I would say, to the downside. Okay. Now, if we do get a break above, then we could scratch that. But right now, we see that Asia broke to the downside. We saw London break to the downside as well. Found some buyers, but these buyers were not able to take it outside the range. So they weren't overly, I mean, somewhat aggressive, but they don't have the control of the market that maybe this would potentially lead us to think. Right? It only managed to get it to the opposite end of the initial balance range. So I would say that there's still a fair amount of bearish sentiment in this market. Okay. So headed into the session, okay, until I see price, start to make some, kind of restore this a new high business, a break above this initial balance range would be one such event. I have to kind of start to think about maybe there's the possibility that price will continue lower here. Okay, this could easily be something in the way of just an area where we can continue lower. Now, what's got to causing me a little bit of pause is what am I seeing here on the other side of these candles? I'm seeing some wicks. Well, these wicks indicate that there are some aggressive buyers in this area, but these aggressive buyers, at least for now, have not been able to create a new high. So if these buyers who are trying to push the market higher are unsuccessful, well, at some point, that lack of success is going to cause the market to fall. Okay. I think London reached the 50%. Some divergence between ES and Q. Okay. Yeah. So we definitely got to the 50% extension in London and reversed away from it. We'll take a look here at ES and we'll take a look at that very element here now. Next, let's take a look now at the ES. Looking at the daily chart. Okay, so daily chart. This one I would say is showing a little bit more strength. Okay, than what we've been seeing in the London in the Nasdaq. Right, we are at the upper end of this of range. Developing a little bit of kind of an indecision candle here at the highs, but we had 2 relatively strong bullish candles in this market on the daily. So looking at this, I would say that this looks a bit more bullish, okay, on the daily. This technically broke or closed above this area. So assuming that we can hold around this area, right around this 69.86 level, then the expectation is that maybe that level will serve as some level of support. We have not been able to close inside it as of yet. Right now, this is a daily candle, so we still have a day's remaining session here to decide where this candle ends up closing here. Okay, but the fact is, it is above the area we just closed above here on the left. Okay. So that could, while I'm not a big fan of obviously taking trades and paying a premium in this direction, that's the market right now is kind of leading me to that. Okay. As long as we hold above this 69.80, 69.82 level, then the feeling is that maybe there is still some more upside, at least in this market. Okay. And that's not exactly what I want to do. I wanted to do a extension. Okay, so if I go here and then to here, well, this gives me a couple of locations where price could reach. We have this 7,000 level, and then we have 7,100 based, and then again, similar viewpoint here, right? This would, on the daily chart, this would be a measured move, right? So this would, right, if I take the retracement, it's kind of putting us right at that 7,100 level. That's kind of what I'm seeing on the daily, but that's working on the assumption that we hold. We need to hold above 69.80. Cannot close below 69.80. Okay, in order for that view to kind of remain, that hypo Okay, let's take a look now at the 4-hour chart as we're kind of winding down here, and my voice is in need of some health. So let's go ahead and here take a look at the 4-hour chart. You can see that we're starting to create higher highs and higher lows. Again, we have that little bit of a mix. Although the mix is a little bit more bullish, right? We're seeing that price is now above our 9 and above our VWAP. We weren't seeing that in the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ, we had price inside, right? It's I don't know, maybe it was above, maybe it was above the 9, but below VWAP. Okay, so we're getting a little bit of a price divergence between the ES and the NASDAQ, as Marie was alluding to earlier. Okay, taking a look at the 30-minute chart. Okay, now this is showing me a little bit more in the way of bullish, right? I see my 9 EMA is beginning to cross above my VWAP. And so that's giving me an indication that maybe some bulls have started to come into this market. This is certainly a lot stronger than what we were seeing or witnessing on the NASDAQ. Taking a look at our fixed range volume profile. Fixed range volume profile, we're going to go ahead and go back to the start of yesterday's session here and take a look. We'll start here to this, okay? And you can see, even though we are showing a little bit more signs of bullish, we're still technically inside value from yesterday. Okay. So until we break value, which is up at this level here, until we break that value, there's an expectation. Oh my God, more coffee. Thank you so much, guys. Right. There's the expectation that this level could serve as resistance here. Okay. 69.92. 69.92 could offer me an area of resistance in price. Now, if we break above it with some volume and hold above it, maybe that gives me that, maybe aligns with that hypothesis. Thank you, Faye. I think I'll change that from coffee to some lemon because I don't know if you notice it, my throat is a little bit hoarse. Yes. and I do need to keep my voice strong. There's no doubt. Okay. All right. So a little bit of divergence here. Okay. A little bit of divergence. A little bit of divergence going on between the NASDAQ and the ES at this moment in time. Let's take a look here at the initial balance ranges across the various markets. We'll take a look here at the Asia market. Okay. Asia market was, I guess, similar, right? Was similar in its bearish view as the NASDAQ on the ES. London, a little bit divergent, right? So we see London is above. So I would say if price is able to remain above 69.85 or 69.84, then my view in this market, which is a little bit different than what we've been seeing in the NASDAQ, is for maybe continued upside. Okay. But obviously we do have 69.92 in the horizon that could cause the market to kind of retrace. So we have to be a little bit careful here around this level because it could cause sellers to potentially step back in. But this upper line of my initial balance range, this 69.85 level, is something that if I'm in this market or instrument, that's the level I'm going to be watching to see if it's able to hold. If it's able to hold, then maybe I can follow my 9 EMA for a continuation move here to the upside. Okay. Okay. Let's take a look at the Dow and accelerate my my coffee and my tea. Probably tea before coffee. So let's take a look at the daily chart. Okay, is even the Dow, I would say, is even showing a little bit more strength, right? Showing a little bit more strength than either the NASDAQ or the ES. We have price that's closed above, right? It's actually made a new high. Okay, right. So this is even showing more strength than in the other two equity markets. 4-hour chart, we're kind of consolidating, developing a little bit in the way of a of a bullish candle here, well above our 9 EMA. So daily, probably more bullish. 4-hour, maybe a little bit bullish, maybe bullish to go bullish to range. Looking at the 30-minute chart, we're going to go ahead and take a look at Asia to start. Okay, we can see that London managed to get above the initial balance range, giving us some indication that that we are in some sort of bullish sentiment at this market. We have a similar level above in this market that we need to get above if we're going to continue to maintain this kind of bullish kind of posture, or whether this is just range kind of price action, right? 49,806 or 805 seems to be that level. Okay. If we can't get above that level, we can remain in some sort of range. But what I do see is that price did manage to close above this initial balance range. So we do have, at least a couple of aggressive buyers here. Okay. Taking a look at the Asia market, looking at Asia was also relatively bullish. Okay. Asia managed to close above. So a little bit divergences going on between the equity markets, right? We had an initial push to the upside, did not manage to hold the IB high, which would be a strong move. Allowed price to come back to the other side of the initial balance range before they were able to participate. So again, bullish, but not overly strong. Okay, bullish, but not overly strong. Okay, so could be an indication that we could remain in range. All right. With the last few minutes remaining before the start of the session here, guys, let's take one final view here of the various markets. Metals to me look a bit bearish. Okay, so we see that the crude oil market, the gold market is below our 9 EMA, below our VWAP. Okay, indicating bearish kind of sentiment here. And we're developing still inside our initial balance range. So right now, I would say that we need to continue to look for opportunities in this market to the bear side, especially if we remain below our VWAP and below our 9 EMA. If we get above and hold that with some volume, then maybe we can turn that in from maybe a bearish market to maybe a market that's in range, and that we could potentially get back to the highs. But right now, I would say gold is looking a bit on the bearish side. Silver also looking bearish. Okay, and I would say even more bearish than the gold. Okay, this we have quite a bit of a separation here in the price from our VWAP. Taking a look at our DMI here, you can see that's creating a little bit of separation here between our positive DI and our negative DI. And look what the ADX indicator has given us. It's given us an indication that this momentum to the downside is pretty strong. Okay, it's pretty strong. Okay, so I would say also bearish in the silver. CL, we're inside the initial balance range. We're seeing really no indication here on the DMI that is telling us which direction. If anything, it's telling us that we are in some sort of range. I would say that I'm neutral, kind of range bound in the until we start to pick up maybe our ADX or a positive or negative, kind of getting some strength here. We were bearish. We started to see some signs of bullish, but that bullish did not hold for very long before the bear stepped in again. So let's just say range to bearish in the crude oil market. And then looking at the Nasdaq, we were kind of inclined in saying that maybe we were getting a little bit of a mixed signal here. That has since kind of firmed up here a little bit. So price is above our 9 EMA, above our VWAP. So starting to give us some indication that maybe the market is starting to become a little bit more bullish. Okay, we did get our positive DI to cross above our negative. Our ADX is still not quite sloping, and neither is the positive DI, right? We'd like to see both the positive DI sloping in one direction. And we also want the blue line to also be sloping in the same direction if we are indeed bullish. Right now, we're kind of mixed. So I would say neutral. I'm going to call it bullish, but I'm not overly bullish. Okay. Neutral to bullish is kind of what I'm going to say for the NASDAQ. ES showing a little bit more strength to the bullish side. You can see that our ADX indicator is beginning to slope higher. I'd like to see this positive DI also slope higher, and that would give me, but it's a little bit stronger to the bullish side in the ES. And then the Dow, I think was the strong, was kind of indicating to me the strongest of the three. Early, but I could be a little bit. This is looking a little bit more like the ES. We have a sloping DI to the positive side and kind of creating a little bit of divergence, a separation between a negative, and then our DI, our ADX indicator is kind of giving us some indication to the upside. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's kind of review some of the questions here that we have here. News at 10. Yes. Be aware of news at 10 a.m. Eastern. Yeah, my call is a little bullish. Okay. I would say range to bullish. Okay. That's kind of what I'm saying, Michael. Range to bullish in the equities. All right. And again, the metals and the equities are inversely correlated. So if I see the metals kind of selling off, then that the expectation, and not always accurate. We could all be falling, but generally they're inversely correlated, and so that leads me to believe that maybe the equities are going to be a little bit more bullish. Okay, and that's kind of what's causing me to kind of think more bullish on the equity side. Okay, all right. Well, first of all, thank you to Michael and Marie for the coffee, and Marie for the hot tea lemon suggestion. I have some warm lemon water here. Okay, so I will be taking that in. Okay, kind of taking care of my my ailing throat here, and so we'll. If there are no other questions here, guys, we'll go ahead and close this session off as we close most sessions. Trade well, trade safe, trade like a pro, be a market trader. Okay. Have an excellent day in trading, and we'll catch up again soon. All right, guys. Until then, have an excellent day trading.